Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our English in Chunks challenge, where, as you already know, your English grows chunk by chunk, right? Every day, as you are listening to our cozy holiday related topics with our teachers team and just in general with our team members from English for IT. This is me, Julia, again, and I'm really excited to spend this week with you guys. And today is our fourth episode, which is going to be a really fun one based on the topic that you can see on the screen. But before we start, and before you ask this typical question if the recording will be available, you have to know that, of course, they will post the recording as well as the English chunks, aka all the useful expressions from this live show, from this episode. We'll also post some practice tasks for you in our Telegram channel. So make sure you are part of our Telegram community because that's where you can find the recording as well as via email. So watch out for our newsletter as well. And today's topic is a cold one, as we promised, because we've been to some tropical locations, right? Yesterday, if you were watching us, we were traveling to Latin America remotely. And today, we are discussing cold weather and cold winter. I mean, really cold winter, Canadian winter. If we have any of our community members, of our students in Canada at the moment, please say hi in the chat. Or in general, please, audience, let us know where you are watching us from, where you are located at the moment, and if you are experiencing already this severe freezing winter. Yes or no? Also, please let me know if you can see and hear me okay, and it will mean that we are ready to get started. Say hi in the chat, feel free to introduce yourself, and let's do a really quick sound and camera check. Right. I see first reactions on LinkedIn. If you're watching us from LinkedIn, feel free to send your reactions. If you're watching us from YouTube, feel free to use the comment section, right? Awesome. I think we are good to go. I see first comments on YouTube as well. Hi everyone. Hi again, and welcome. Thank you for joining English in Chunks. So again, today we are speaking about cold Canadian winter. And for you to cover this topic, I have a really interesting guest, Nadine, my one and only colleague from both the teaching team and also our admin team. Will definitely tell you more today. Nadine is a person who has lived through it, so she definitely has a lot to share. Nadine, hi there. Hi, hello.
Hi, Julia. How's it going?
Welcome on board. So Nadine, you're probably known among our community as a very wise and supportive mentor. And for us, you are a content and exceptional content and product manager. So we really appreciate you coming here to share your experience about, as you said, surviving winter in Canada. I definitely have a few questions for you today about why about this word choice, surviving. But before, can you give us a bit more context about when you had to spend winter in Canada and what brought you there?
Yeah, so that was 9 months of my life that really turned out to be a great experience. It was, I think, about 12 years ago. I went to Canada to study, so that's what I did, and I lived in a homestay. So if you know, like when you do a homestay, you're placed with a local family, and they sort of just take care of you like you're one of the family essentially.
Right. Yeah.
So I was really lucky to be placed with a really awesome family, and overall, it was a great experience.
And where exactly in Canada did you have to spend these 9 months?
Yeah, I lived in Toronto, or Toronto, as the locals say. I can't quite say it like that, but yeah, they say like Toronto. So yeah.
Okay. Okay, great. And if we say it's cold there, I mean, how cold is that? Is it like minus 10 degrees, minus 20, 30, usually in Toronto?
So for us, like Ukrainians or just I guess Eastern Europeans in general, if you go to Canada, you might not even feel the difference at first. But when a cold snap hits in Canada, like it's different from most places in the world. Like it gets really cold, it gets super freezing, and I'm actually interested, like everyone in the chat right now, can you, if you can, like please comment what's the coldest you've ever been, like what's the coldest temperature you've ever experienced. For me, spending that winter in Canada, I would say it was below negative 25 Celsius,
Oh,
somewhere in that
that's
region.
what?
So I,
Definitely.
yeah, really,
Yeah,
really.
that's a lot. I mean, of course, I think I've experienced this even in Ukraine, but it was like a decade ago, like so many years ago, when we had similar winters, right? Again, I have this question about Canada, especially if you had an opportunity to travel to different cities. Obviously, Canada is huge, right? Is gigantic, and I'm pretty sure that in some cities it's like severe winter, but in others it can be just like normal winter, just even mild, right? Is this true?
So Canada is in general is pretty high up north, so it's kind of cold throughout the whole country. There are some places in Canada that are just so far up north that it's literally like living in a freezer. That's what
Hmm.
the locals say as well. Like if you, there is one city where there are a lot of factories, so some, I don't know, there are opportunities to take jobs there, and so a lot of immigrants tend to move to that city to work. But the only downside is it's just so bloody cold there. And so the Canadians like often say we need to do some kind of boot camps for those, kind of people coming over from other countries, and just send them to live in a freezer for 6 months so that they know what they're getting into.
Oh wow, that's cool. That's how they prepare. I
Yeah,
see.
I never traveled that far up north in Canada. Toronto, I would say, is sort of pretty, I guess, mid-range as far as Canada goes. It's kind of, yeah, closer to the American border. So it's not, that northern.
Yeah, so relatively mild, right, or very similar to our winter. You're originally from Ukraine, right? And um, have you noticed any differences still if you compare Ukrainian winter, especially our winter that we have now, with Canadian winter that you've experienced?
Yeah, so like I said, the cold snaps or the cold spells, as
Mhm.
you can also call them, it's gonna hit you like a ton of bricks. uh, I can tell a story from my experience.
Go for
So
it.
I think it was about like I think it was mid-January. I kind of stayed back a good few hours on campus, just finishing up a group project with my classmates. And so we wrapped up at about 10 p.m. And they just kind of went our different ways. And I thought, okay, it's a pretty short bus ride to where I live, so no worries, right? I'll get home just fine. I went outside and I realized just how cold it was. It was literally like nothing that I had ever experienced before. It was like, kind of like bone chilling cold.
Mhm.
And,
You
and
know, I now can understand because I think I watched a few TikTok videos about Canadian winters, and they share how your eyelashes can, freeze together in Canada during winter. So I guess it's true.
it's scary, like, and for some reason, I had to just kind of be there waiting for a bus to come for about like 20 minutes, and it just wouldn't show up. And I started
Oh,
getting really desperate. uh, but the one cool thing that happened is that I got to see a raccoon as I was standing there waiting.
Nice.
Like,
Then you
yeah,
have good memories.
so that kind of made it worth it. Again, it's pretty cool seeing a raccoon out in the wild. Like that was the first time for me seeing like a wild raccoon, not in a zoo, but just out and about. So apparently, what raccoons do in Canada, they come out of the forest at night and
Hmm.
they just rummage through trash. They literally dumpster dive. They get into the trash and they look for food scraps and things to eat.
Yeah. Nice, nice. And how did you then get back home?
Yeah, so I mean, my boss finally showed up
Mhm.
and took me home. And my homestay mom was like, "Wow, thank God you're home. Like I was worried about you." And she said the government had issued a cold warning earlier today, and obviously I didn't know about that, and I
Mhm.
didn't even know what a cold warning was. But that's what they do in like countries like Canada where it gets super cold. The officials sometimes issue a cold warning to literally warn people to stay inside and not go outside because it's potentially life threatening.
Yeah,
Like
that makes.
you can get hypothermia, you can get frostbite, like it's, no joke.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Makes sense. And but still, I know that Canadians they treat winter in they just love winter because I heard about this festival, winter festival that happens in February, I guess. Like imagine outdoor festival. I'm saying imagine, but you already probably experienced that outdoor festival in February when it's super cold. It can be like minus 30 degrees, right? Usually, I mean, in Ukraine, when we have such a cold weather, we just stay inside, right? We cancel our plans. But the Canadians, they have a different mindset. They say, it's super cold there, let's go celebrate. Have you heard anything about this Winterwood Festival?
No, no. And I'm slightly ashamed that I haven't. I should have, yeah, explored more when I had the chance, but because I was a student and I just had so much homework, I basically just spent maybe like 80% of the time just studying, like head
Like,
down, non-stop studying. But I do recall that in Canada, as opposed to other places as well, where you normally just get two winter holidays like Christmas and the New Year. In Canada, they have three winter holidays. So Christmas, New Year, and then they have Family Day on February 15th, I think.
okay. Okay. Maybe that's this festival that I read about. Winterwood. We'll definitely have to Google or ChatGPT this. So probably if family decides to go outside, to skate, to ski, or I know that they eat ice cream during winter just because like it doesn't melt that fast. So that's another tradition for Canadians.
Definitely, like Family Day might have a role to play there. I don't know if there is a connection,
Hmm.
but I do remember like my homestay family celebrating Family Day, and yeah, I would totally um, sort of back you up on what you said earlier. People in Canada tend to just spend more time outside in the winter because they're just so used to, it being cold. It just doesn't, no one's that bothered about like 5 inches of snow or something,
Yeah.
So on Family Day, people tend to go out and just enjoy this one day off that they get because Canadians work really hard, same as um, Americans. They work a lot, so they really appreciate this chance to just spend time with their families.
Yeah, that I love that. I love this factor. Obviously, that's great. That's good to know. What else should we know about how to survive winter in Canada? Of course, you have to be mentally prepared. I guess you have um, to have appropriate clothes with you, like all this clothing, so you have many layers, right? I mean, this technical sides. But what else?
Yeah, don't be like me. Don't venture out at night without checking the forecast, without even knowing that there's a cold warning that's been issued. Um, don't be like me. Bring proper clothing, and if it gets really cold, you can always go to a Starbucks
Mhm.
or something like that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Have you heard of anything like goose parkas that they wear? I really like this name of the jackets. Winter
Parkas,
coat.
yeah, yeah, winter parkas, yeah, right. Um, yeah, I think that's just kind of like an item, like a clothing item that's it's kind of like a must-have, yeah, in like a tough weather environment. So yeah, people do wear parkas in Canada for sure, and yeah, as far as surviving the winter, the homes in Canada are actually pretty well heated. That's another thing. So, like in like the family that I lived with, they did not even have a space heater.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, like you'd need in some homes just to get through the winter. They didn't even have a space heater, but it was pretty warm. And I don't know if it's again a thing in other places like throughout the world, but in Canada they have this thing called hydropower.
All right. Okay. I think I heard
Yeah,
something about it. Mm-hmm.
yeah. So it's pretty kind of it's really brainy stuff. I don't understand how it works, but basically it's converting water energy into heat, and so they
Yeah.
use into power, and they use that to heat their homes. And yeah, it works really well.
Awesome. Good to know. Well, Dan, again, if we compare Ukraine, right, especially now when winters in Ukraine, they become uh, more and more mild, I guess, right? Like this, just like normal winter. Sometimes we barely have snow. Do you miss this Canadian winter, or you're just fine with what you have at the moment in Ukraine?
Yeah, I would say I do. I don't know about you, but I find that the older I get, the more I tend to enjoy the cold.
The snow, I guess, right? Also the snow.
Yeah, like a proper winter, like I really kind of yearn for like just proper winter with lots of snow and just this crispy air. Um, so that's something that I didn't really care that much for as a kid, even with all this kind of usual Christmas and New Year um, vibe, right? Like whatever. Yeah, like you're really kind of looking forward to Christmas as a kid. I didn't really care for like snow that much, but now, yeah, yeah. Like I like James mentioned, I think, right? Like in our first episode, that he specifically traveled back to England just to experience like a proper Christmas.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, that definitely makes sense because it's how you imagine this Christmas and this family day that you mentioned, New Year, right? You want to see snow, and Canada is a perfect place for that. I even know that Canada, among tourists, right? The travels are very popular in winter time because people really want to skip summer and they want to visit Canada in winter just to experience this, huge amount of snow, this freezing weather. They want to feel like so many layers on themselves, right? To imagine like how Canadians actually live.
Right. I wouldn't know much about that because again, I didn't really kind of socialize that much with the tourist community in Canada.
Right, you're with locals, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And as far as Canada goes, there's just so many different people from different backgrounds there. You really can't tell who's a tourist and who's not. So that's just, I'm not saying it's whether it's good or bad, but it's just one of the things about Canada. And sometimes, like if you're in Toronto, like sometimes you might see a French-speaking person, and that's like seeing a unicorn in Canada. I mean, in Toronto. Um,
Absolutely. I've never been to Canada, but I'm super happy for you that you actually experienced this winter season in Canada, and not only winter, since you were there for 9 months, you said. So that's very interesting. Nadine, we have a question here on YouTube. Um, we have a question about mountains. Have you been in like to the mountains? Any beautiful lakes nearby? Especially when it comes to Toronto and lakes.
Right. So I've seen the lakes in the United States, not in Canada.
That's a
Uh,
different story. That's a different episode.
I feel like I'm really boring. I'm sorry about that. But because again, because I lived with such a wonderful family, it might actually have been on Family Day. I'm not sure, but they took me on a trip with them, and we went
Hmm.
to see Niagara Falls. So I
Nice.
saw, yeah, because it's right on the border, like yeah, on the American like Canadian border, right? It's right on the border. The Niagara Falls like is literally right on the border. Um, so yeah, I saw one of the like major landmarks in the world, right? I don't have a
Fantastic.
photo to prove it though, because you know me, like I'm not a fan of my photos being taken, so I did not take a
No,
photo.
no need. We trust you on that.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, what else comes to your mind when you think about winter in Canada? Of course, proper clothing, snow, brutal weather. What else?
Oh, I should say something topical, but the only thing that comes to mind is karaoke right now because again, I lived in a Filipino family, and you know, it's a big thing in Asian cultures, I guess in general, right? Just karaoke as a hobby, as a pastime, like a family pastime. So my family did a lot of karaoke. Like there were a lot of karaoke nights. Um,
Awesome. This is what kind of your, your personal, right, memories and how you associate your being in Canada.
Yeah, but I would say like Niagara Falls is definitely worth visiting if if it's just something on your mind. If you're planning to like go somewhere in Canada, that's yeah one of the good places to go. Um, and speaking of Canadian life, yeah, like I mentioned before we started the stream, I had like a few little bits to share that I think are pretty interesting, just about different things in Canada that you might not know of. And I know for a fact, Americans, like Americans, when they go to Canada, they have no idea about these things, and they're always just gonna, you know, caught off guard, caught unawares.
Tell us
Um,
about it.
so yeah, first thing, and that happened during my first week in Canada. I went to a Subway store. If you know, like Subway, that's a popular fast food chain. They literally like sell subs, right? Subway sandwiches. And the guy behind the counter, like the guy there asked, "Do you have a loonie?"
Awuni?
Yeah, that was the
What's that?
question. Do you have a loonie? And what's that? Yeah, that was entirely my thought process. So yeah, he saw how confused I was, and he literally kind of like pointed at my wallet and pointed at this change that I had in my wallet, and he found a loonie, which is $1 Canadian. That's a loonie.
Okay, we even have in the comments we have the explanations. Huni. Well, that's something new for me as well. Awesome. So I guess it was a surprise for you that caught you off guard, right?
It was, and it's such a new thing that just no one knows, like. But the reason why it's called a loony is literally because it has a loon um, on it.
Oh,
So a loon is a type of duck that's
yeah,
yeah common in North America. So $1 Canadian is a loony, and $2 is a toonie.
Toonie.
Yeah,
Because it's like two Toonie.
yeah,
Okay.
a loony and a toonie. Kind of yeah.
Nice, nice. I love that. That's a good lesson, and I'm happy that our community are so smart and they all actually know this.
Yeah, someone
Vitalina,
figured it out, really?
sorry.
Oh yeah, loony is one. Well, way to go, Vitalina.
Absolutely. I was about to say the same thing. She says she has learned about it today. Great, awesome. Nadine, what else? I think you said you had two stories to share.
Yeah, so another thing, like it's not really a story, but just kind of like an interesting language fact. So you know how Americans say "huh," you know,
Huh.
yeah, just like in casual kind of friendly conversations, you might say something like, "Oh, nice weather today, huh?" So the Canadian equivalent of that is "a." So Americans say "huh" and Canadians say "a." So
Okay.
in
It's like
Canadian,
mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah, they'll say, "Oh, nice weather today, eh?"
Okay, okay. Great episode today, hey, Nadine? I love that.
Yeah,
Good. Thanks for sharing.
exactly.
That's interesting. Well, I would definitely do Canada in winter. If I plan my trip there, it sounds really interesting and just exciting to experience, even if it is brutal. To go to this part of Canada where the weather is severe. They have this freezing winter. I would definitely love to experience that myself. So thank you so much for sharing that. Am I right if we wrap up this episode today? The topic was how to survive a winter in Canada. Am I right if I say that winter in Canada is absolutely survivable?
It is, as long as you bring a parka, I guess.
Yeah, this goose parka.
So, yeah, you'll get through it. Yeah.
Sure. I believe there is no bad weather. It's bad clothing, right? Not appropriate clothing that you choose and maybe your mindset. Thank you again for sharing your experience with us. We also hope that this was very interesting for our audience, for the participants of the English in Chunks Challenge. And I really hope that you guys had a chance to learn something. I mean, English related and just some interesting facts about Canada, about the winter season. So if you want to receive these English chunks, right, useful English expressions from today's episode, you remember you have to be part of our Telegram channel, and we'll post the follow-up message in an hour or so. So thank you everyone for joining. Tomorrow we have our final episode of the challenge. It's also going to be very fun with another English teacher from our team who you probably haven't met before. So stay tuned and have a great day, morning, evening, everyone. Thank you for joining today.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
And I'm
you.
personally looking forward to tomorrow's episode with Shay. So I hope everyone's excited as well.
Good. See you tomorrow then. Bye, everyone.